औज़ुबिल्लाहिमिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जम्मू कश्मीर टेलीविज़न के तमाम नाज़रीन को मेरा सलाम, आदाब, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल। आज वादे के मुताबिक हम एक शो लेकर आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर हो रहे हैं। आप सभी बखूबी आगाह हैं कि दुनिया ने इस वक्त कोरोना वायरस ने दुनिया को अपनी लपेट में लिया हुआ है। कुछ मुल्क जो हैं वो इस मुश्किल वक्त से निकल आए और कुछ निकलने जा रहे हैं, लेकिन कुछ बड़ा मुश्किल वक्त दूसरे मुल्कों के लिए आ रहा है। जैसा कि पाकिस्तान, आज़ाद कश्मीर, इंडिया, जम्मू कश्मीर, उसके अंदर बड़ी सीरियस जो है ना वो सूरत हाल वहाँ पे मौजूद है। आज क्योंकि यूके के अंदर कोविड-19 का लॉकडाउन की वजह से आज उसका पहला दिन था, जिस पर हम बात करने जा रहे हैं कि आज लोग, कम्युनिटीज यहाँ पर लोग कैसे महसूस कर रहे हैं कि आज उसका पहला दिन था। और मेरे साथ आज के इस प्रोग्राम के अंदर मेरे इंतहाई जो इम्पोर्टेंट शख्सियात हैं वो यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं। उनको उसमें है कौंसल मजहर इकबाल साहब, जो कि यहाँ शेफील्ड सिटी काउंसिल में कैबिनेट मेंबर हैं बिजनेस एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट के। उनके साथ हैं कौंसल जिम स्टैंकी, जो कि काउंसलर हैं नेदरलैंड एंड शैरो बोर्ड के। उसके बाद यहाँ की लोकल जानी पहचानी एक शख्सियत इब्राहिम उल्लाह, जो कि लोकल कम्युनिटी एक्टिविस्ट भी हैं और साथ साथ ही वो यहाँ बिजनेसमैन भी हैं। इसके साथ ही हमने कोशिश की थी कि हम मदीना मस्जिद से उनके जो कोविड-19 ऑफिसर्स हैं स्पेशली उनको भी यहाँ मदऊ किया है। सो इंशाल्लाह होपफुली वो भी हमको लेटर ज्वाइन करेंगे। लेकिन अभी में हम ये करते हैं कि इस वक्त हमारे जो मेहमान मौजूद हैं, तीनों मेहमान, हम उनसे बात करने जा रहे हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लेट मी वेलकम कौंसल मजहर इकबाल. Council Mazhar Iqbal is the cabinet member for business and investment. Council Jim Stenke is council member, elected member for Sheffield City Council from Netherlands and Sharo Ward. And we also welcome our young businessman Ibiullah, who is also a community activist and has made an enormous contribution during COVID-19, whether it's through Netherlands and Sharo food bank, or whether his own charity, which they have made an enormous contribution in the lives of the local people. So first of all, let me go to Council Mazhar Iqbal. Council Mazhar Iqbal has been responsible, and he has very serious responsibility in terms of making sure that the businesses of our city still not only survive, thrive, even after the coronavirus situations. So he has been able to provide much, whatever help was available through the central government and through the local council. Councillor Mazhar Iqbal, welcome to this show.
Assalamu alaikum, Maroof Saab. Thank you for that warm introduction. As you said today, some of the non-essential businesses opened, not just here in the city centre, but also our district centres. We mustn't forget the district centres, because they've been very vital over this COVID period. You know, they've been like our key workers, these convenience stores that have been open where we can shop locally. But as you said, after 3 months, the shops reopening. I was in the city centre this morning with my colleague, Councillor Bob Johnson, and we had a walk round, spoke to businesses. If you go on the council's website, for example, it gives you all the information, www.sheffield.gov.uk. The reason I say that, because there's a lot of activity, Maroof Saab. So, for example, as you know, the government guidelines stipulate only travel on public transport if it's necessary. We're encouraging people to walk and cycle. And then obviously people have got to use their car as well. So the city centre completely looks different to what it was a few months ago. We've made sure that there's space for pedestrians and cyclists. And because of the social distancing measures outside, we've been working with businesses. We've been putting vinyl stickers on the floor. There's markings, so People know where to stand, so it's ensuring that 2 meter distance. Once you go inside the shops, a number of the shops, they had hand sanitizer. So as you walked in, you used the hand sanitizer. Staff had gloves and masks. The ones that wanted the full face visors, they had them on. And the shops or the department stores were clearly marked. So there's vinyls on the floor, signs and boards in the shops of which way you should walk. So it's been a tremendous challenge for those businesses opening up today. So just to give you a bit of flavour, if I may, Maroof Saab.
Yeah, Mother, thank you very much for your much information. Let me bring Councillor Jim Stanky in before I go to Ibiula for his comments. But first of all, I will go back to Jim. Jim, welcome to the show. Jim is struggling. We can't hear you, Jim.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better, yeah.
Can you hear me? That's fine. Sorry about that.
Yes. Yes, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the invite, Maroof. I'd really like to back up what Maz has been saying about the importance of today and the preparations that are being made for it. And also particularly, I mean, he's been talking about the city centre, and I think that's really important. But as he said, like equally important perhaps is the kind of district shops and how we actually do that. But within my ward and neighbouring wards, the whole issue of the London Road, Abbeydale Road, Chesterfield Road corridors, I think is really important. And I think it worries me that some of the shops along there, some of them haven't opened today, and I'm trying to kind of establish what the reasons for that might be. I think there is kind of a lot of advice out there in terms of for private businesses. The local authority has publicised a lot about the grants that are available. I think the take-up of grants has been considerable in terms of progressing them, but we still need to kind of make sure that everyone that's needed grants has actually got it. But I think what's important now, I think, as we enter this period of moving on beyond the lockdown, is that people making that entry, so bigger shops perhaps have, kind of the advice from their national organisations to enable them to actually kind of conform with all the requirements of the in terms of COVID. But I think some of the smaller businesses and shops are going to really struggle on that. So we need to make sure that they get the advice that's needed, but also that any of those that kind of end up inadvertently, hopefully inadvertently, not deliberately, breaking those kind of regulations, that we kind of find ways of actually kind of getting them back to actually kind of conforming to them. And I think one of the things we're doing, working with Business Sheffield in the corridor for Abbeydale and London Road, has been like putting up posters advertising where you can get the phone line to get advice. And one of the things that I'm going to be systematically doing in the next few weeks is basically calling in every business, and I've already made quite a few contacts already, basically saying how are you doing, and if they're not doing very well, then suggesting they really need to kind of approach Business Sheffield and perhaps other organisations to get support on that.
Thank you, Jim. Let me welcome Ibiula. Ibi is a local businessman and also a community activist. He has very strong links with one of the local mosques because from today the government have eased the restrictions, and now they have allowed for individual prayers to the mosques. I have been speaking to the leading mosques in Sheffield who are making sure that they have appointed COVID-19 officers, making sure that the government guidelines are completely followed by the worshippers and the mosques or all other the worship places, making sure that unless the worship place is safe, nobody will be allowed to go inside to pray. which obviously there may be some more risks, making sure everything is safe. So we have invited Gul Nawaz Khan from Medina Mosque. We hope he will join us. But how, Ibrahim, how do you feel the first day being a businessman, being a community activist, very close link with the mosque? How do you feel?
First of all, thank you very much, Marusa, for inviting me to this show. Mashallah, I think this show has been like a community service throughout this pandemic. I think, a lot of people have benefited from your show. So, Jazakallah khair to you and to everybody at JK TV. Before I say anything about the mosque and today's opening of non-essential businesses, I want to express my solidarity with the people of Kashmir. I think we've not forgotten about your struggle. You still, our thoughts and prayers. And inshallah, one day you will get your right for determination and freedom and the rest. So
Thank you.
that's the main thing. And I believe this online channel is censored in India. It's blocked. It's banned in India. So that's another topic. So in terms of today, the opening of non-essential businesses, of course, as a businessman, I welcome that. But I welcome it with a caution. I think. I was just speaking to Martha early on that a lot of the small businesses, with all the restriction in place, it might not be viable for them to open. So there is a big concern over the heads of the small businesses. So of course, those essential guidelines are in place for good reason, and we should follow them. Otherwise, we risk having a second spike and second, pandemic coming back, and it might result into having a second lockdown. So I welcome with caution, and of course, without businesses, our society doesn't function.
Ibrahim, I completely agree with your concern. I have been to one of my friend's restaurant.
Yeah.
When I went, so first of all, he praised that they are doing very well in terms of getting enough business to deliver, like deliveries. But unfortunately, he said they will not be able to survive, or they will not be able to make any profit if they follow the current government guidelines. They said we have, say, 60 tables in normal circumstances, and if we reopen with large staff and all that requirements to reopen the business, so what will happen? They will not be able to make enough income in terms of giving the enough wages to our staff and cover the overhead. Although government has said that the restrictions, the 2-meter distance restrictions, are currently actively being reassessed or reviewed, but until they review properly and issue the new guidelines, I think the business will struggle. Mazhar, what will you say? How the Sheffield City Council will be able to help in this situation?
Yeah, as I said earlier on, our work isn't just focused on the city centre, but in our district centres and those small shops as well. As I said earlier, if you go on, I'd encourage as many people to sign up on www.sheffield.gov.uk. We have regular factual information that comes out of the council's newsroom. And also, if there's a business who's thinking, what are those guidelines? We have a free retailer's handbook now, which is available on our website. And we're going to each district centre as well to mark up the floors, to put up the signs, and try and help these businesses to reopen. And as Ibrahim said earlier, the conversation we were having was about viability. I mean, I've been walking around my district centre. I go for a walk on a regular basis here in Darnall. There are many businesses that just can't afford to open because the overhead costs. But again, it's important for us, as we have done all along, is follow the government guidelines. Yes, there's this talk about should it be 1 meter, the impact it will have on businesses. The problem I have with this government, Maroof Saab, is that the message hasn't been very clear once it moved and said stay alive and so forth, because the most important message we have been saying as a council is that the most important thing is you must stay safe. You've got to follow these government guidelines, and it's the same for businesses. If it's safe to open, then open up. As I said, you can go on the council's website. The information is on there. You can contact Business Sheffield. There's an advisor, and we've been doing this, Maroof Saab, throughout this pandemic. Businesses, both small, big, independent, or they're part of a chain, have been speaking to our advisors. I remember at its peak, Maroof Saab, we were taking 400 calls a day. So I would urge any of those businesses, if you're finding it, if you can't find the information you're looking for, or the information is you can't understand it, please either drop us an email or give us a call. This is what we're here for, Maroof Saab, because it is going to be a struggle. Now, the next key day, picking up your point regarding restaurants that fall within the hospitality sector, that is going to be challenging. You know, you can't open a restaurant, say, for example, with only a few tables. You can't bring in a full complement of staff at the back of the restaurant who do the cooking and the preparation, and then at the front where you're serving. So what we've done as a council is it's on our website. If you can, if the space allows, and there'll be information on our website, we're going to allow people to put out tables and chairs. If you meet those 5 aims, usually you submit either a licensing application or a planning application, and it can take up to 51 days. Here we're hoping that you can do it from day one, and then you fill in that license application or planning application. Again, the reason we're doing that, we want businesses to feel like, yes, the council is on their side. It's doing everything it can for them to open up. But we also know that not everywhere. It's like, for example, in Darnall, the pavements are narrow. So for them, restaurants or cafes, it is going to be very, very difficult. And that's why there's this discussion going on regarding should it be 2 meters or 1 meters. And for me, you know, all this is based on medical and scientific advice. That's the most important thing. It's not for politicians like they have been nationally from government confusing folks. So, you know, the national message hasn't been helpful. But again, as I said, you know, go on the council's website. There's loads of information there. We are working with agencies across the city. So, for example, we set up a business recovery group that consists of the council, the chamber, Sheffield Digital, and many others. And that group is tasking itself at looking at how it works. As Councillor Jim Stanky mentioned early on, it was the push around business grants, push about the business loans you can get, push about how we ran a campaign to ensure self-employed, especially the taxi drivers, for example. If you look at the government schemes that have been announced, it's never been a holistic approach. It's been piecemeal, which has created uncertainty for individuals or businesses. And you know, we've lobbied hard with our MPs here in Sheffield and MPs both nationally and councils, because we speak on a regular basis. I know Julie, who's the leader of the council, speaks to core cities. So it's looking at how we work together to open these businesses safely. But you're right, Maroof Saab, it's been a challenge over the previous 3 months, and it's a challenging period coming forward. So I'd say, you know, follow the advice, that social distance, because that's the key bit for us. And if there's anything that we can do to support you opening, then yes, please get in touch.
Mazhar, one more question before I go back to Councillor Jim Stanky and Ibiullah. I have been approached by many business people who were not eligible to get the support because they were not paying the business rates because they had their businesses, say at the big business districts like Meadowhall and some Barnsley retail center and all over there. So they were not able to get. So I understand local member of parliaments and other councils were trying to help and get some more help from the central government in terms of providing them some discretionary funds, discretionary grants or something. So had this been sorted? Because the advice was coming back from the officers, council officers, that once they have received further guidance from the government, so then they will be able to pay out the under this scheme. Otherwise, they will not be able to. Have you started paying out? Or
Yeah, I mean, again, Maroof Saab, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Sorry to make these political points. It's fine for a government minister to stand up at 5 o'clock and make these announcements, these sound bites, rhetoric, yes, this money is available. But then we locally have to administer that. And when the minister makes that announcement, he or she doesn't say that there's criteria attached to that. That criteria comes from government, not the council itself. Our role has been administering that cash as quickly as we can. And I'm so grateful to my officers, the council officers, that have been working 7 days a week, trying to understand the government guidance and support as many businesses as they can. Again, with the discretionary scheme, Maroof Saab, there was no discretion. The government clearly, the minister, Robert Jenrick, who's under a bit of storm at the moment, made this announcement on a Saturday evening. The guidance then came out 2 weeks later. So when the minister made the announcement, I started getting emails. Jim and my other colleagues started getting calls saying, yes, where's this money? 2 weeks later, we got the guidance. And the guidance, again, Maroof Saab, was restrictive on what we can do. We weren't given the full money. So where some of the businesses can get a grant between 10 and 25,000 here, because the amount was reduced, we could only give on a discretion basis up to 5,000. Now we've used the government's criteria, and the grant itself closed on Friday. What I did promise as part of this process was to go back, review the criteria, and also look at how many businesses benefited. Because we know from the major business, the main grant, we've paid out close to £90 million. There's been about 7,000 businesses that have benefited from that grant. And we know there was hundreds more who could have benefited. So again, we made an announcement to encourage them businesses to come forward. But again, there are gaps within the system, Maroof Saab. There are businesses that are out there in the hospitality, leisure, retail. There's even nurseries that have been in contact with me that share space because of the threshold put by government, not by the council. And we've gone back to government asking, can you reduce or increase the ceiling? And they've said, sorry, because we had to rush out and put a scheme together. There's many, many losers. It's like the furlough scheme. There's millions of people who could have benefited from that, but aren't, and now sat at home with no income whatsoever, and all they're seeing are their bills and debt increase. So again, there's a lot of hard work still to be done to ensure that both businesses and employees provided a safety net. Because going forward,
I think this is quite a complex subject, and I think it needs more clarity and more awareness amongst those who are either not eligible or eligible for this grant. I think we need to do some more publicity, making sure that this word reached out to them. But but we will come back to that one. Let me ask Ibrahim. Ibrahim, you ask question, and then I'll go to Jim. Jim must have been out on the streets talking to businesses and people around in his constituents and the people who wish to go back to their worship places. So Ibrahim, ask the question. Yeah,
Martha, I'll be very quick. First of all, I thought the business grants was administered by Sheffield Council superbly. I think they were very quick. If it wasn't how quickly they processed, many of my tenants, commercial tenants, wouldn't have survived the initial £10,000 for small businesses. So, big up to Sheffield Council for that. Regarding their discretionary fund, that was very, very misleading. First of all, like Mother was saying, that the government announced one thing, then it gave false hope to many businesses who missed out to the original grant, because original grant, you must have a premise, you must be a business, you must have a business-rated building, which many businesses in the modern economy don't have. They gave them false hope, and when they inquired about this discretionary fund, the criteria was so narrow, it was unbelievable. It was for like market stockholders who have got rent overheads, who may not have business-rated but got rent overheads. But a lot of businesses work from home or have registered offices elsewhere, and they missed out. So I thought that was very unfair, and I think I urge Sheffield Council, Mazda Iqbal, and obviously I know his hand is very tight, as he said. It all comes from the central government. I think there are a lot of businesses out there who could do with that discretionary fund, and I wish something that can be done about that. But overall, I can't fault Sheffield Council, because the bulletin were very good. I received a weekly bulletin about what is out there, and like I said, the way they helped my commercial tenants, if it wasn't for that, then many of them would have had to basically shut shop and go home. So thank you very much, Mazda. Thank you very much for.
Thank you for your warm words. I'll pass down.
Ibrahim, you stay here. Very soon we are going to open another session, and that session will be, we all will stay on the screen, and anybody, if they want to interrupt, also Mazda Iqbal or also Jim Stemke or me.
I'm gonna get off the Saab, because I've got somewhere to be, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. If you can stay with us just for 5-10 minutes, and then we will ask you to leave. Jim, do you want to, before Mazda leaves, do you have anything else to discuss? And what was the atmosphere when you went out on London Road or wherever you was this day to see how the businesses were doing on the first day? I have been speaking to a couple of businesses in the area, so that it was not much difference. So whether this is because of it was first day, or whether people are still worried about their health or the social distancing rules and all the stuff, they may be looking after their loved ones who are elderly, who have underlying health conditions at home. So possibly all those factors may be people are not still out from that situation. So what do you want to say?
I mean, I think it's mixed, really. I think that a number of people I spoke to were clearly relieved, because they were, anxious about opening today and this week, but pleased that it was over. But it's important to remember that some kind of businesses are not going to be opening today, like hairdressers, barbers will not be, in terms of July the 4th, they'll be looking towards opening. And I think that is. So it's important to kind of realise that it's a mixed bag. I think the other bit that I think was very clear was how confused people were. I mean, Mazza made reference to the fact that there was government announcements, and then you were waiting 2 weeks for guidance, which was incredibly frustrating. And I think the local authority responded to that really well. But one of the problems I think around that is that 2 weeks when the guidance came out, it often contradicted what the minister had said in the first place. So people may have seen, what's on the telly, and then, when it comes into practice, it's something very different. And I think that that's the need for clarity. And I think that the information that I think it's really important that people sign up to the information that the local authority is putting out. That is really, really important at the moment. I also think that it's kind of the kind of flexibility that I think the local authority is kind of showing. And I mean, as was referred to about in licensing and in planning, and about just not wanting to kind of put up barriers for people actually trying to make changes. And I think that there's some newer businesses who would really kind of benefit from that. So I think that's a good step. But it's also recognising that And I don't want to sound pessimistic here, but the reality is we could be having a second wave. We could be potentially having another local lockdown. And I think it's important that in the context of, kind of coming out of this lockdown, that we both learn the lessons from it, but also maintain the flexibility that if there's any further restrictions, either later this year or next year, that people know how to respond to them with the minimum amount of disruption. And it seems like the kind of retailer's handbook that was referred to, which rather than trying to wade your way through government guidelines, which I think can be quite confusing, actually having something local. Have you got to go now, Mazza?
No, I was just going to say, if I could just, Maroof, we can't emphasize enough, because it is a legal minefield when you try and navigate some of the health and safety legislation. That's why we have this booklet. We have a team of officers on a phone call, or if you want to email us, they're there to help reopen these businesses in our communities, and it's important that they get it, that they seek that support. And as Jim has said, the council is using the levers it has to try and ensure that these businesses can open as safely as they can. People can wait in queues. That's why the markings on the floor are important. So, you'll have seen them at the bus stops. Now we're going district by district to ensure we can do that as well. And the fear for us, Maroof, is like we've all spoken to businesses today, some businesses haven't opened. If you look at the forecast around, we're walking, and the Chancellor said this, we are in a recession or a depression. If you read or listen to some of the analysis that over the weekend, they were saying out of the Western world, we're the worst hit, 20 odd %. We're the worst with the numbers of deaths, which is hugely tragic. It just seems like this government doesn't really have a grip, and I'm glad that some of the work that we're doing locally enables these businesses to open safely. I mean, this debacle about schools, for example, the debacle in care homes, and then again, the debacle with the support that businesses and individuals are receiving. And that's why it's important that, you get in touch with our business advisors. They're there to support you. I must get off. I'd be more than happy to come back on again, Maroof Saab. It's nice to see Ibrahim and Jim. We're getting used to Zoom, so I'll probably see you tomorrow.
Mother, thank you very much for your time from the busy schedule, and we really appreciate. And the listeners and the viewers of Jammu Kashmir Television will appreciate your efforts to come along here. And obviously through these discussions, when the people of Jammu Kashmir, the people in Pakistan, India, they must be watching, and they must be able to follow the Sheffield model or UK model to give some benefits to.
It's very tough for them out there.
Yes.
I mean, what I watch on the news, Maroof Saab, Kashmir, as Irfan said, my dad's from Sialk, Mirpur, Azad Kashmir, and the cause of self-determination, that's close to our hearts. And the lockdown, I mean, I've been saying to some of my friends, we're very fortunate. We've got internet connection. Those individuals and businesses, when the lockdown happened in the Indian administered Kashmir, just basically shut out those people. And finally, I'd like to say well done, Maroof Saab, because I see this channel, you as a journalist, a key worker, providing that information, being on the front line. So thank you very much to you and your team for broadcasting this. So hopefully take care, stay safe, and hopefully I'll see you again.
And I'll pass any other compliments you get.
Okay, Jim, your colleague, Consul Major Iqbal, we are so grateful to him that he took time from his busy schedule and he gave his some valuable information for the viewers. But now, while he is not there, so we are only, so I'll be talking to you for in the rest of within the next 15-20 minutes to you and Ibiola. But we will be discussing a couple of more issues and then we will stop. The first issue is the people had the deadlines when Consul said if you are struggling, so we will not force or we will not evict somebody if their income has been impacted because of COVID-19 circumstances. And they said you can make arrangements. And is there any deadline that you're going to push for collections of rents, council tax, and business rates? Because the business rates deadline has been extended. So is council planning to extend it further as the other furlough and self-employment income support schemes has been extended to October? So is the council is taking the same lines to extend the initiatives or the collections for the council tax, rents, and business rates in line with the extension the government has said until the October?
No specific decisions been made on that, although I think there's a lot of people with a lot of sympathy for that. And I think we need to be very clear as soon as possible in terms of trying to ensure consistency between what the government may be doing and other agencies as well. So I do think that there'll be more flexibility shown. It's a question of whether or not that's extended to October or not, or whether. But it seems to me that there will be really kind of, when the furlough scheme finishes, there's going to be a massive impact. And I think we need to prepare for that now. So, it's not just the job losses, but it's all but it's all the subsequent kind of impact it has on jobs once people on a bigger scale start losing work. So I think we need to be as flexible as possible. I think both in the business rates and also recognising that in terms of the flexibility around council rents. But what I think is really important is that we get good advice in place, both for businesses who may be struggling, but also for individuals, and whether that's through access to online materials or directly with the Sheffield Citizens Advice, to make sure people are who are in that vulnerable position actually get the advice they need. And one of the things I would stress, and I think building on what Maz was saying, is the importance of getting accurate advice, because I think often in situations like this, people are desperate, and when you're desperate, you want to hear things that you want to hear, if you get what I mean. And sometimes what you may get told formally is not what you want to hear, and I just stress, and that's difficult for all of us. So I just think it's really important that the advice that people are getting is accurate advice and going to proper sources for that advice.
Excellent, Jim. Ibrahim, have you been to your mosque today? It was the first day, and if you have been to, what were the feelings and what sort of arrangements your mosque have made to make sure that the prayers can go smoothly and safely?
First of all, I'm a charity trustee of our mosque, called Baitul Mukram Mosque on London Road. I've not been to the mosque today. I think the government is allowing for private prayers. Well, as you know, mosques are for congregational prayer. So our mosque committee are still thinking about it, deliberating, taking all the advice on board before they come up with a safe plan to open. But in terms of, like I said, private prayer means you going and sitting in the mosque and praying for yourself. But our mosque hasn't come up with a plan yet, and we're still learning, and we will take every single advice on board. But it's not difficult for the mosque to open at the moment, and it's very because our community, the AME community, are at the most risk, especially some of our elders who might have chronic health conditions. I think it's good now they are taking their time, and we will also, because we're only a small mosque, so we'll be waiting for some of the bigger mosques like Medina Mosque on Wusu Road to see what they're doing and what we follow their model of how to go about opening the mosque. But yeah, but we obviously we want to open as soon as possible. Mosque is the heart of the community, and many people really miss it. And so I'm sure the executive committee will try the best to open as possible, but safely as possible as well.
Okay, Jim, I will ask this question to both of you. There are reports, and I have seen some video images on the national television that in London, in different part of the country, there were queues outside the shops, and there was no social distancing guidance were completely followed. There were long queues outside there, and people were pushing. And I saw very horrible image when people were standing outside the shop, and when the workers inside the shops was trying to keep them out to make sure that the government guidance is properly followed. But unfortunately, they have pushed the door, and then they went inside. What do you want to say to your constituents, and what do you want to say to your fellow citizens, Ibrahim, that in these very difficult times, because in other countries there are risks that the second wave of coronavirus can come back. So how we can make sure that this does not happen in our communities or in our cities or in our towns or in our country? What is your message?
I'm fairly hard line on this. I would ask people who are, yes, we need to kind of recover the economy with people going to shops, but it's like it is what you're buying so important to actually prejudice? I understand, basic food, and that that everyone, that's what we've been doing for the last 10, 12 weeks. But I do think that if it's like particular kind of that's why it's called non-essential shops, that people are putting not just their health at risk, but other people's health at risk, and actually risk undermining all the kind of what's been done so far. And I do really worry about that. And I've seen those images as well. And I suppose I'm worried about, because I think that the sheer risk of a second wave and the impact that will have both on potentially further deaths, but also in terms of on the economy is massive. And what I would say, and just picking up what you were saying about the mosque, I just feel that, it's been so exemplary. I mean, I'm aware of what a number of mosques have been doing here and else in other cities. And I think the way that they have kind of brought in social distancing and the discipline that goes with it is brilliant, really. And I think that, people are looking for examples of how you kind of social distance responsibly, and people should be looking at mosques at this point.
I have been speaking to an important member of the mosque committee of the Medina Mosque. They have done such a wonderful job in terms of making sure to become a model, try to set up a model for the rest of the mosques in Yorkshire or in the country to follow those guidelines, and how they have tried their best to implement. And they have appointed a COVID-19 officer who will make sure that the worship place and the mosque is completely safe for the worshippers, and when they come inside, so making sure that it's allowed for those who are healthy, who are not possibly elderly, or possibly the people who have underlying health conditions. In short, when government said that we are going to ease the lockdown, it does not mean that the coronavirus is no longer there. Virus is still there. So we have defeated. The NHS have done such a wonderful job. The government and the local council have done their best. The charities have done their best, and the people who have adhered to the government guidelines, making sure. So that's why we have been able to defeat. But still, coronavirus is still there. So it's still, if we don't follow, if we keep going on as it is with the full strength that we follow, and the life has been changed, and until we follow the guidance properly, there is a risk that coronavirus can come back and second wave can come back. So we need to make sure does not mean that the coronavirus has been defeated. It's not fully defeated yet. Maybe what you say?
Of course, Marisab. I mean, I think in some part of the country, the R rate, the reproduction rate of the virus is increasing to probably near 1 now, which is apparently a very dangerous level. So of course, now it doesn't mean that life can go back to what it was. I'm afraid life won't go back to normal for a very long time. We have to be very vigilant that we don't undo all the hard work that everybody has put in, all the sacrifices. My wife is a health worker, NHS doctor. All the things that everybody has done, from bin men, from council, politician, and it would be tragic for us to have a second wave, and they say the second wave may be more deadly than the first wave. So yeah, Marissa, I would say please be considerate, think before you go out. Like you said, Marissa, I've seen some of the pictures from London on Oxford Street outside of a Primark shop or Nike shop. The lines are humongous, and I'm thinking, surely you can wait a couple of days, or you can order some of the items from online. I know shopping is a very essential part of our culture. Shopping is a vital part, and we know that. But like you were saying, Marissa, and like Councillor Jim thank you saying that, please be careful and only go out if you think it's absolutely necessary. And let's make sure that we can continue this uneasing of restrictions so that we can come to come out from full lockdown, basically, inshallah. And in terms of mosque, you're saying that Mosque Al Madinah Mosque, for you to implement, to make sure the worshippers are protected, you need extra volunteers, you need resources, and not every mosque has that, Marsab, and that's very important to point out. And I urge some of the bigger mosques to help the smaller mosques and council to help out. We know to make sure, so we're all like.
Ibrahim, I fully understand, because in Sheffield there are 3 main mosque organizations. One is the Council of Mosque, one is the United Council of Mosque, and the other one is there are 3 main, and there is one new one in Rotherham as well, and the third one in Sheffield is the Federation of Mosques. All those mosques have very close contacts, and I am sure that they have done a wonderful job already, but they are in contact with each other to get the help, advice, and wherever the small mosques haven't got enough volunteers or resources, so basically they can rely on their colleagues. That is the whole purpose of the federations. That's the whole purpose of the Council of Mosques and the United Council of Mosques, to get the advice and help from others to make sure that we go smoothly and our worship places and mosques do the justice with their existence, and also serve the purpose. So our help and advice is available, and I welcome them if someone would like to come on my show or any other show or on radio television to get the message across to the worshippers and all those people. I will ask both of you the last question. You must have been follow the news, which is the headlines in the mainstream media as well, about the situation in Pakistan, in Azad Kashmir, in the Indian occupied Kashmir, in India. The coronavirus is not recognizing the race or religion or anything. So this is going to impact everybody, young, old, children, and all. We all are being really badly. We are impacted. Not only in one country, across the world, but now the situation over there is worse. This morning I was listening to the news, and there was a briefing coming out from one of the ministers in Pakistan that by the end of July, possibly we will have 1 million, over 1 million people will be infected with this coronavirus. And the similar situation, the numbers are increasing in India, possibly numbers are increasing in Bangladesh as well. And the worst situation is in Jammu and Kashmir, where the people have been living in lockdown, and this is a double lockdown. On top of that, what will happen to them when the charities are not allowed, when the international organizations are not allowed to go and help? So in this situation, here in the West, the countries are rich, they have been able to do much for their own citizens, and they went through. They have been giving the message, just stay home, and people stayed home because they had the means to live. But in Pakistan, India, and in third world, that is a completely different situation. The governments are unable to invest, unable to give enough to the people to survive. Otherwise, they will have to work. And how, unless unless you provide enough means, you can't enforce your rules to ask them to stay home and keep safe. So, what is your message for those governments, and the message to the international community that in this very difficult time, think for those countries who are unable to provide enough resources, enough means to their citizens? Otherwise, this can come back to our doorstep.
Jim, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you've summed it up perfectly, Maruf. I think that within kind of Western developed countries, if that's the correct phrase, I think we have a sense that we're coming out of the, out of it, which is, I think it's misleading anyway, because I would say we're at the end of the beginning rather than the end of what's actually happening. But some other countries are not even kind of reached their peak yet, and I think that's really the whole problem with the Indian subcontinent, and those three, in terms of India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, I think it's all kind of evidence of that. And as you said, I mean, those things that we take for granted here, that we, have we got enough ventilators, etc. It's a far bigger kind of question about whether you've actually got hospital beds or any kind of medical treatment for people in those situations. And I think that it's not just the numbers of people dying, but it's the impact it has on the economy of those economies. And I mean, it's not just like you were saying about India, about 1 million infected, but the figure, one of the figures was being quoted yesterday was 198 million jobs are potentially at risk in India, and and the numbers in Bangladesh and Pakistan as well. So that has such a massive impact, and the reality is that will hit the poorest hardest. COVID-19 thrives on inequalities. It's almost as though it's been designed as a virus to impact on the poorest people most. And I think that you're going to see this in the coming months in the rest of the world.
Marusab, today I read an article by Time FT.
Ibrahim, do you want to say something? Then
yeah. So today I read an article from the FT saying that developing countries will be the hardest hit by this pandemic. Marusab, I think more people in poor countries, developed countries like say Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, will die from starvation than the virus itself due to lockdown. It's tragic in every single sense. So I urge, obviously, the government of these countries, of Pakistan, of Kashmir, of India, of Bangladesh, to help the citizens, and I think they are. I think they're trying their utmost best. However, Bangladesh has a population of say 180 million people. They've only got a handful of ventilators. They don't have the resources that they need for the enormous population that these countries have. I urge them also to ask for assistance, international assistance, and for the rich countries like Britain, like America, like Europe to provide humanitarian assistance to this country, because without their help, it won't be possible, Mosab. And I plead with them to help. I mean, with all the resources that we have in this country, we're still struggling. Imagine them lot, in those villages. Whereas today, I received a very sad news that coronavirus has entered my own village, in Sylhet, in Bangladesh. So I'm deeply worried that this virus doesn't spread to other members of the village. So I'm sure, the Bangladesh government doesn't have the capacity to test everybody, like Kashmir doesn't have government doesn't have to test everybody. And if they did, I'm sure they would find a lot more positive cases. And like Councillor Jim Stankin was saying, that this is just the beginning, unfortunately, just beginning, really. And whilst we'll come out of it one way or another, the Western countries, with all the enormous resources we have, the impact of coronavirus will be everlasting for many of them. So it's heartbreaking. I think we need an international cooperative effort, and I plead with the UN, and all the big European countries to help them as much as they can. This does not discriminate on race or religion or color. I mean, look at that. We had Prince Charles who was tested positive. Boris Johnson was taken to ICU. And today, a very, very big politician in Bangladesh, a former mayor of Sylhet, has unfortunately passed away due to COVID-19. So it's coming very close to us. So yeah, so whilst we, I'm very happy that today the restriction has been lifted for non-essential shopping. We always, should always keep in mind of the people in Kashmir who are, like you said, in double lockdown. I can only, my heart goes out to them, but then I pray for them. That the lives suffering, eases very soon, inshallah.
Ibrahim, Jim Stanky, Consul Mazhar Iqbal, I am so grateful to your time. You have made sure that you come here and you have provided a valuable information to the viewers. I am so grateful to you. We are going to end this show here, and I am just going to stay here just a couple of more minutes. And once again, Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marsam. Thank you.
Ibrahim, thank you very much. And then I will invite you to another show very soon sometime. Okay, Ibrahim. Thank you. नाजरीन, ये था हमारा आज का शो जम्मू कश्मीर टेलीविजन पे. आज हमारे मेहमान थे यहाँ पे शफी सिटी काउंसिल के कैबिनेट मेंबर कौंसल मजहर इकबाल, शफी सिटी काउंसिल के इलेक्ट मेंबर कौंसल जिम स्टैंकी, यहाँ के लोकल बिजनेसमैन ईबीउल्लाह इब्राहिमुल्लाह, जिनका तल्लुक बांग्लादेश से है. यहाँ की लोकल मस्जिद के अंदर भी वो एक्टिव है. उन्होंने यहाँ आज लॉकडाउन का पहला दिन थोड़ा सा लॉकडाउन ईज हुआ था, जिसके बाद वो यहाँ की सूरत हाल के बारे में बता रहे थे और अपनी जो उनके कंसर्न्स थे वो भी यहाँ पे आके लोगों को बता रहे थे कि अगर हमने जो गवर्नमेंट की जो गाइडेंस है उसको मुकम्मल उस पर अमल नहीं किया तो एक कोरोना वायरस की दोबारा जो वेव है दोबारा आ सकती है. ईज का मतलब हरगिज ये नहीं है कि कोरोना वायरस डिफीट हो गया, कोरोना वायरस चला गया है. कोरोना वायरस अभी इधर मौजूद है. हमने उसको, ये जो अमल है, इस अमल को हमने जारी रखना है. हम अपने उसी तरह घर में आते वक्त और बाहर भी जब आप जाते हैं तो वो जो सेफ्टी प्रिकॉशंस हैं, जो गवर्नमेंट की गाइडेंस हैं, उसको आपने करते रहना है. 20 सेकंड के लिए हाथ धोते रहना है. जो बाकी जो गवर्नमेंट ने गाइडेंस आपको दी है 2 मीटर की डिस्टेंस की, वो भी किए रहना है. जब आप पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट पे जाते हैं तो आपने मास्क भी पहने रखना है. और अल्लाह ताला आपको अपनी हिफ्ज़ व मान में रखे. बड़ा मुश्किल वक्त है. पाकिस्तान, इंडिया, सब कंटिनेंट के अंदर सभी लोगों के लिए अल्लाह उनकी भी हिम्मत दे, उनको ये इस मुश्किल वक्त से गुजरने की और एक दूसरे की मदद करने की, ताकि ये मुश्किल वक्त भी गुजर जाए. मैं इसी पे आपसे इजाज़त चाहूँगा. अल्लाह आपका निगहबान हो और शब बखैर.
JKTV रियासत जम्मू कश्मीर का पहला इंडिपेंडेंट वेब चैनल है जो कि रियासत के तमाम हिस्सों की तर्जुमानी करता है. JKTV ने अपनी नशरियात का आगाज़ 2015 में किया. इस वक्त JKTV की नाजरीन की तादाद 500,000 के करीब है. आर्टिकल 370 के खात्मे के बाद गैर जानिबदाराना रिपोर्टिंग की वजह से 1 महीने के अंदर अंदर JKTV के व्यूअर्स में ना सिर्फ इजाफा हुआ, JKTV अपनी रियासत की आवाम को बाखबर रखने के लिए पुरअज़्म है और इस सिलसिले को जारी रखने के लिए JKTV ने नए टैलेंट को प्रमोट करने का आगाज़ किया है. JKTV को वॉलंटियर्स की तलाश है. अगर आप लिखने, फील्ड रिपोर्टिंग और वॉइस ओवर में दिलचस्पी रखते हैं तो आप JKTV से रब्ता करें. JKTV आपको